Hello, everyone. This is USA Stormwatch. This is Isaac Schaff with forecaster JD. We're going to talk briefly about storms we have going on in the upper Midwest. This is actually our first. This is actually our first feed that we're coordinating via multi-platform that we're utilizing YouTube and Facebook at the same time, which will be useful in future events. So now we're going to talk briefly about these storms to begin with. We'll also talk about the overall weather patterns over the next couple of days, that prolonged heat wave as well. And obviously we'll get to tomorrow's severe probabilities over the upper Midwest as well. So yeah, we have several thunderstorms continuing across the northern plains here. Obviously my mouse doesn't have scrolling or anything, but yeah, just east of Fargo into northwest Minnesota here, we definitely can tell that there's some strong winds occurring with these storms. This is just a broken cluster of storms that continues to push through. I'm going to put this in motion here. We can see that we have some additional storms down around this area. So like definitely some heavy rainfall. Localized flooding wouldn't be a surprise here in this situation either. Just seeing how this how this activity continues to behave as it pushes through this area. And I mean, we have some cooler air sinking, or this air on the backside, or the cooler air further aloft. I think we can definitely tell that continues to sink in. So I mean, looks like the winds are considerably increasing as this, or the shear, the mid-level, the low-level shear is increasing a little bit as it approaches Boston. So I mean, what that indicates is that the winds might get a little stronger. Obviously, the warnings here are calling for mostly 60-mile-an-hour gusts. I mean, small hail wouldn't be a surprise, but I'm just going to verify. Yeah, we have potential for quarter-sized hail with, I believe, this storm as well. Yeah, down towards here. Yeah, I think both of these storms have that decent. We still had some upward forcing, and obviously that cooler air continues to sink down. So I mean, any upscale growth that happened earlier, that kind of helps those storms produce some hail. And then obviously we have a couple of
we did have a couple of tornadoes.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about these storms as they push through the East Coast. Obviously, this is the southern axis of that trough over the East Coast. We can definitely tell that there's clusters of storms across some of these mountainous regions that are kind of trailing, and obviously there's the elevation changes quite a bit more in these areas. So obviously that leads me to say that there could be potential for runoff with these, and in the nighttime hours it's particularly concerning because it may be harder to see that, or when you encounter that as an example.
Or what the water is the problem.
Yeah, sure. Always be mindful of that. Yeah, so
never drive your vehicle through a flooded roadway.
Yeah, we're also going to talk about our severe weather potential over the next couple of days. We'll get that pulled up here in a moment. I gotta get that new window up. So obviously we're talking about that. We're talking about some particularly, these storms will be quite elevated heading into tomorrow across the upper Midwest, but still we have the potential for larger hail with some of these. I will caution, especially into areas such as Minneapolis or stuff, some of those vicinities across central Minnesota as well. And I'm going to pull up that graphic here and show you guys. I'm going to, if you bear with me here. One second. Yeah, so here's our
thunderstorm watch too.
yeah, there's that watch that continues over sections of the northern plains as well. So we can see that broad enhanced risk area. It stretches from areas east of Grand Forks, International Falls down towards areas around Duluth. The Minneapolis-St. Paul area is also included. There's a more elevated tornado threat that extends into these areas as well. And I'll show you guys what we're talking about. Yeah, so like, and again, these do account for like anywhere within this has a 5% chance of seeing tornado with anywhere of 25 miles of any given point within there. So, I mean, that would translate to 50% within 250 miles. So, like, there's more than 250 like square miles within there, obviously. So, I mean, just that's another. So, like, that's another mathematical way to approach these or to interpret these. And obviously, with storms kind of having more healthy and stronger updrafts with this hail threat, just indicated by this significant hatch line with the potential for more larger hail within anywhere within 25 miles of any given point there. That's indicating a I'm trying to remember what that means. Oh, yeah. Hatched area has 10% or greater probability of 2-inch in diameter hail or larger within 25 miles of a point. So, like,
that's
a
dangerous.
lot of this hail initially may make it to quarter size, but then we may be talking about potential golf ball, maybe tennis ball size hail with some of these embedded storms, especially the more discrete ones with, further aloft where those stronger tops where we have those stronger updrafts. But again, so the wind threat is obviously highest up here. I mean, how warm air rises where the temperature, I think the lapse rates are definitely pretty high. This is kind of what leads this combination for me to say there. Obviously, we'll take a good look into that as well fairly soon just to address that. But I mean, all of that warm air continues to rise. There's not much cool air that's being forced down or sinking towards the ground. Obviously, if that's the case, then we're going to see more of obviously that kind of compares, stuff like derechos to stuff like what we're projected to see tomorrow with some of these, more discrete cells producing some of that more larger hail. And obviously, there's that chance that we'll see some tornadoes tomorrow as well. And I'll show you guys what we're talking about. I was just showing our I was just showing JD earlier. So this is a high resolution rapid refresh 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time run. And I'm going to focus that a little bit closer up north here. And we can see how things behave overnight here. So like you can see, this is a more broken line of storms. Obviously, this is all the stuff that is sinking down. A lot of this is wind. I mean, we've had some warm air kind of set up with a boundary here. So like that's causing some air to rise. Obviously, that's leading to some embedded hail with some of this. That will continue to be the case over the next couple of hours. Maybe some small hail continuing with some of these, but obviously more of a organized wind threat because this is more of a broken line over the next several hours. And as you can see that as we head into tomorrow morning, the line kind of dissipates a little bit. We can see some remaining storms being an issue during the latter overnight into tomorrow across more central parts of the state. But we're watching this area of low pressure.
Second wave.
Yeah, we have this other wave to watch out here. Obviously this is more disorganized stuff as it goes throughout the morning here. But over the course of tomorrow morning into the afternoon, we can definitely see how there's that surface trough, maybe some additional lift. We can see that convection firing off here. We can definitely see how rapidly storms initialize. Just comparing these, it could start out as just a couple of showers and it builds into scattered thunderstorms. We can see some discrete. So this is a broken line of storms. We can see these breaks along the line. Obviously, that's where we are.
And that's what's going to cause tornadoes.
So like these breaks along the line, obviously that's indicative of maybe some surface-based updrafts. And I'm going to go into the sounding view here just to show you what I mean. So there's plenty of surface instability. I will caution with that. And I mean, there could be some, obviously some weaker surface-based updrafts, and obviously where that boundary does set up. And with the helicity number and the what I'm seeing on this photograph here, obviously, that gives me to say, leads me to say we have that decent potential for a couple of tornadoes across this area throughout the course of the day tomorrow, especially into the afternoon. And we can see how this activity continues to hold together in the evening. And with these more discrete storms, and I meant to go back into sounding view earlier to, we can definitely tell this is where hail tends to grow, anywhere between 10 to 20 degrees below 0 Celsius. That is called the dendritic hail growth zone. So like we can see that these updrafts and such, I mean, with all that moisture and stuff like that. So we can see how I believe the lapse rates
well,
are
definitely there's going to be very large hail tomorrow.
Yeah, we can see that the effective, so like this is what summarizes the cape here. See this red line that goes to this purple dotted line. So like if we, so obviously the mixed layer cape is a little bit less, or like this is actually not far ahead of these storms enough. So I want to go a little bit further ahead just to show you guys, maybe like right down in here. So like closer ahead of these storms where there's more clearing. So you can see how that difference is. So like the cape is much higher in the sounding. We can see that updrafts maybe much higher. So like we can see the cloud tops obviously where these lines are closer together. I mean, this like storms could grow well into up here, like several kilometers off the ground here. So I mean, when we're seeing that, that leads me to say we have that potential for some significant hail with some of these, and the downdraft cape here. I mean, just watching that number and a couple of those. I mean, there's that potential for recurring updrafts, of course, but I mean, like if that cooler air sinks to the ground faster, obviously the hail may continue to grow while it's up here in that dendritic growth zone. While the hail gets much larger, obviously it falls to the ground much faster. So like when obviously if it's just quarter-sized hail and it doesn't fall as fast, maybe it loses some of its
and here's the thing:
solid texture.
Quarter-sized hail can still do damage.
Yeah, definitely. So like when we're talking about hail like that, obviously we could see some minor cosmetic issues to vehicles, maybe some agriculture around there. That's
here's something else I was going to put out to everybody else tomorrow. I mean, if anybody is home, this would be the time tomorrow to have your vehicle parked in a garage or some kind of parking garage, and to maybe this is a pass, because if you don't have it in there, that's where you get your car dented up. And always have a way to receive warnings. As tornado siren ain't going to help you, right, Isaac?
Well, I mean, again, there is that potential for tornadoes. Like I said, I believe the helicity values are lower, but with this sounding. But I mean, I've showed you guys a photograph earlier where I mean we've had more surface or 1 kilometer helicity. So that's when. Obviously, that's when, of course, you know, it leads me to say there's still that potential for a couple of tornadoes tomorrow across Minnesota into some of the surrounding upper Midwest, northern plains areas as well. So we're going to want to pay close attention to that. But again, just looking at a weather radio. I was going to say, JD, just looking at a sounding like this, obviously, I was just explaining earlier how quarter-sized hail, you know, it doesn't fall to the ground as fast because, you know, the heavier an object is, the faster it falls to the ground. So, like, sometimes it may lose a little bit of its solid texture as it reaches, you know, where it's warmer down here. But, I mean, if the updrafts are much stronger and the lapse rates are much higher, I mean, the hail is more likely up here, you know, when it reaches a hail size up here to be kind of the same characteristics as it reaches the ground. So like if we see like baseball sized hail, for example, so that's much larger hail. I mean, that falls to the ground like almost twice as
But
fast.
still, that'd be a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it falls to the ground twice as fast, I mean, it's more likely that will make it to the ground as something with baseball size.
Yeah, are we
But
going to see
obviously,
baseball size
it,
hail tomorrow or not?
well, it is possible. I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me just given what this is saying, but
Me
the
too. I
higher the
mean, I
K
won't
values, the higher the
be
trends, it would
surprised.
kind of lead me to see higher confidence. But we'll have to see how things pan out tomorrow in the short term. But I mean, just explaining
Yeah,
like the larger
I
the
will
hail, the
roll.
faster it falls onto your head. I mean, even just a coin, as it falls out of the ground really fast, I mean, it can still it could still injure you. And like hail is
Yeah, and we
over
really,
half-dollar size, or like even less than that. I
yeah,
mean, there have been pennies that have caused like minor injury, but I mean, when you get to like baseball size or
just
something
think
like that,
about
I
when
mean, that's
baseball or
when
tennis ball
that's when
or even
a substantial or
softball.
critical injury could result for like anyone
Well, I'm
outside.
just
So,
concerned tomorrow. Yeah, if anybody working tomorrow or out doing something, just have something to get warnings with. Anything will be possible. Your cell phone, a weather radio, a weather app. I mean, do not let your guard down.
yeah, sure. And then
That's the thing.
I was going to also summarize. We can see how this line kind of behaves. Um, So obviously, as it pushes through Minnesota here, when we see storms more in these linear modes, obviously there's a boundary that's evident. So there's warmer air that rises, kind of
Getting that
that
move
pushes
towards
in.
Iowa.
There's inflow with this as well, and I mean on the back end, further aloft and then back into here. I mean that's cooler air, so that's air that sinks down towards the ground. And I mean obviously on the back end and associated with these storms, there's going to be some damaging winds embedded within this line as well. We want to be mindful that even outside the threat of tornadoes, obviously some minor roof
We want to
siding
have.
damage could
I'm going to
happen,
say something
some
too.
weaker structures and everything.
Well,
So keep that in mind.
if you don't see any tornadoes tomorrow, you're going to see straight line wind damage that could push through you. And we already know that last Monday when we had that derecho, what it can do. It can tear buildings up, machine sheds, stuff like that. We don't think that's going to happen again, but we never know what it could happen. We could go through another situation like this, but
Yeah,
we
sure. I
all
mean there is less shear with this comparing to that
you
derecho. I
might
mean,
want to have your plan. Have a plan where you want to go. We don't want you to wait again until we all come on and say we're under a tornado warning or even a severe thunderstorm warning can be bad as a tornado. We want you just to act your storm safety plan would be a basement tomorrow. What do you think the good safety rules would be tomorrow, Isaac, when we have these warnings?
So, I mean, in general, like a severe thunderstorm warning, obviously, the first thing you need to know is you want to be in a substantial building or a sturdy structure. And, if it's just for minor wind damage, obviously, you want to be in a shelter. So you want to be indoors or in a sturdy vehicle, and you want to just make sure the winds aren't going to be like over like 70 miles per hour, or you want to be in something that is more
We could
like
have 70 tomorrow, right?
or what?
We could have
like
70 miles per wind
higher than
tomorrow, right?
uh, uh, sorry, JD, what?
Do we have 70 miles per wind tomorrow?
Well, I mean, a lot of this wind damage is going to be more like associated with these storms. They're going to be organized, but I mean, we're not going to there's not a hatched area for damaging winds in particular. It's mostly for, the energy that's in place further aloft. How there's stronger updraft so that air doesn't sink to the ground as fast. But I mean, at the low levels, there's still sinking air, or obviously that means there's plenty of damaging winds potential to talk about. And we can see there's not much bowing to talk about. This is mostly just a broken line. So, I mean, not everyone's going to see the more serious wind damage or the larger hail. But I mean, I will caution that this is still an area where it's in particular these storms are more organized, so a lot of these reports may come in closer together, and we can see some embedded Boeing segments, but obviously I think the shear is going to be a little bit lower compared to Monday, but still these storms do have the potential to produce some wind damage. So you want to again have a way to receive warnings. Go indoors if any of these storms are severe, and the best place to be in a severe thunderstorm, just like a tornado, you want to be in a sturdy building. Obviously, use judgment if you're in a mobile home. Obviously, have a nearby building nearby. Have a nearby permanent foundation nearby to take cover in.
Or just have your plan tonight.
With that tornado threat and that potential, like we could see some embedded stronger gusts. It's like not out of the realm of possibility. Some of those gusts may be even higher. We will caution. So, I mean, some minor mobile home damage could happen too. So,
just have your plan tonight. I mean, I wouldn't wait until tomorrow to get your plan and say, "Oh, I forgot what to go to." You may not have time again. These might move quick, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm going to overview this model run one more time. We can see how these. So, obviously, to talk about tonight's threat and. First of all, I'm going to jump on here, see if we have any questions. Yeah, we do have a comment here. No, that's just someone saying hello. Yeah, we're going to go back on here and overview what the HRRR model is saying. I watched the NAM guidance yesterday. Obviously, that overdoes the shear a little bit, but I mean, just given what this is saying, obviously there's still that threat for several storms. Obviously, some gusty winds potentially overnight. But I mean, the severe weather threat as it pushes through
Saturday?
Area, we're going to, we'll talk about Saturday as well. And we can see how that line kind of breaks apart.
Because I'm in the low threat.
And how this convection really starts to organize heading into the afternoon tomorrow as it pushes through. And with even some damaging wind threat, and maybe a low end tornado threat persisting into the early overnight as well. We want to be careful with that and that kind of weekends. Sunday and Saturday here, we can see how that low continues to push into the northern Great Lakes area. We can see that minor trough of low pressure continuing to push through the Great Lakes. Obviously, a couple of showers. We can see mostly high pressure here. We have a minor ridge of high pressure at the surface that pushes through. And I believe the situation for Saturday, we're going to go to a more mid-range model to kind of get an idea about what might happen here. Looks like later in on Saturday, we can see another weak area of low pressure push through Minnesota. Saturday, I believe there was a marginal risk.
Low risk.
That I don't know if it was down here in Illinois. Oh yeah, it's with that. It's associated with what we have here. I mean, there's obviously not much that pops up on these convection allowing models immediately, but maybe more of those longer range models. We might be talking. We might be seeing. Just looking at what we have here. I mean, these are pop-up storms, and with the environment we have, that high pressure that really pushes in, I mean, that air could rise, or like with anything that builds over this area with that remaining low pressure kind of handling around the area. I mean, there still could be some weak wind shear that may occur with this. So like maybe just a low threat for damaging winds, but I would anticipate if that high pressure has an earlier onset, maybe this marginal risk would push a little bit further north. I would anticipate the worst of this to maybe hang over the Great Lakes with my consensus here so far. But obviously, with the trends and stuff like that, comparing earlier model runs, maybe maybe there's increasing confidence that there may be greater storm coverage from areas around Chicago up towards like parts of Michigan as well, just as an example.
But
But
they
again,
already got hit the other day.
yeah, and again, the environment here, it's still somewhat conducive. So if we do see a storm that pops up, these storms will be rather isolated, and some of these storms may be on the stronger side, maybe a couple of wind reports. Yeah, it's
But we got
mostly
a couple
the
of days
upper
to sort
trough
that out.
we're watching. Yeah, there's that upper trough as it pushes through the Great Lakes as well. And we can see how that behaves over the plains into the Midwest. You see that you see a ridge of high pressure at the surface with a trough out in the kind of already over much of the area over the Midwest. I mean, I think the air's going to rise a little bit more. So I think so. Obviously, the storm coverage we're not totally confident about yet, but anything that does happen within this environment, obviously, there's going to be some of those more organized storms or rather, I should say, the storms could fire up really quickly, and you never really know what could happen. Just like in any other weather pattern that you see in the summer. Obviously, one moment you could see sunny skies, the next moment you could see a severe thunderstorm pop up right on top of you. I mean,
even a tornado.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll have to keep a close eye on this in the coming days, but obviously, we're not confident about placement of this marginal risk area yet, but I would anticipate some minor adjustments. But yeah, still, I could see how the SPC has that area to monitor. And obviously, we'll keep a close eye on over the coming days. And then,
there's a strong cold front coming in.
Yeah, and then we can see that you can also see how we have that excessive heat over Texas, and that and the fire weather conditions that have been in place across areas further west. So I mean, I think there's a good dry boundary that's been in place. So I mean, when we see that drier air kind of filter in over an area, I mean that the weather patterns can change more drastically, and sometimes, and obviously this stuff is occurring over more mountainous areas. So like that's a sign that with the upper trough, I mean, obviously that may so with the cooler and drier air conditions further aloft, I mean that could lead to some more hail reports overall over the coming days with these next couple weather makers, and obviously this is pretty hot weather that we're talking about. Like some areas have seen, trying to see what they said something about, just dangerous heat over the Great Basin, Southern Plains. I mean, heat indices, I believe Jonathan said, could go to like the 110s in some areas across parts of Texas. So I mean, prolonged heat exposure could result. So I mean, that's just the heat index. The temperatures could be in the triple digits in some places, the actual temperatures too. So I mean with that, so the prolonged exposure to the heat obviously will have more serious health effects, or they're cumulative, and especially susceptible or the elderly, people that have no access to air conditioning, stuff like that. So you're going to want to take these precautions as well. And even those concerns stretching into Washington State, over much of the Sierra Nevada into the Pacific coast as well. And we have some air quality concerns over sections of Colorado as well.
What is that?
We're going to keep a close eye on that. So, JD, do you have anything else to add before we close for the night?
Well, I mean, I guess the severe weather just continues to, have a way to get warnings, and I wonder what the midnight update's going to show on there on the SPD.
We may see some minor adjustments. Obviously, I wouldn't expect any major
changes. Just the wind threat,
given the
you think they'll put the hatch area, wind threat?
maybe in, like, if it does happen, it could be for where that boundary continues to set in a little stronger. But I think that mid-level shear, it's not rather explosive by any means. It's so that's been the case with derachos. I haven't seen much bowing on that line, but it's more of a broken line. So we're going to want to keep a close eye on that, of
Are we in
course.
storm? Are we in storm mode tomorrow or not?
It's under consideration. We'll have more details about that into tomorrow afternoon. Obviously, we'll consult with other administration and our other forecasters that are and meteorologists around. So if anyone does have any questions, consult our page or our message our. We'll kind of get YouTube set up to where we have links to our email and social media accounts for if anyone has questions around over there as well. But I believe that that is a time wrap for us tonight. We'll be back on probably tomorrow to discuss those feeds, and now you can expect us to be on our YouTube channel again. And yeah, you can always if you want to scroll back through this video, the repeat will be available soon. And with that, I guess we will be ending our stream. So everyone, take care.